What's up, everybody? Joker Prime here today to do a little bit of a where to start with Warcry. So a little bit of a video trying to help you get started into Warcry, tell you a little bit more about what Warcry is. I'm going to do a series of these videos getting more in depth into different parts. There is a lot to it, okay? And this game could get expensive, so there are also more cost-effective ways to get into it. So my first recommendation, one place I think is good to get started if you can spend a little bit more, is with the Catacombs. Okay, Warcry Catacombs. It is basically a starter. So it comes with quite a bit of stuff for you. I should probably back up. Before we talk about what that comes with, for Warcry, to actually play the game, you need about 18 dice, 6d6, 6-sided dice. You need a warband, and honestly, you don't have to have a map. You could play it on an open table. You could play it on different boards, but there are some Warcry specific maps and 3D terrain, which is pretty cool. So the Catacombs comes with, if I can remember where I set them, comes with this package of Warcry dice, okay? The different colors, because you're gonna need a set of dice for rolling attacks. You're gonna need a set of dice for your abilities. Basically 66 for attacks, 66 for abilities, and 4 to 66 for what is called wild die. And again, I'll get more into gameplay in another video, but this is what you're gonna need. So the Catacombs comes with this package of dice. It comes with 2 warbands. Scions of the Flame are these pretty cool guys here with the flames, and the Canite Shadow Stalkers are these darker ones over here. And for Warcry, there are boxes of different warbands. So you can get a box with a complete warband in it. It's not going to be necessarily the maximum strength. It's almost like a structure deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a Fast Forces in HeroClix. If you're familiar with either of those, it's a good place to start, and it's a good way to buy a full warband without having to get several different boxes and piece things together. So in the Catacombs, it comes with a box just like this for each of those 2 warbands. Now, when you get warbands like that, they come on sprues. Okay, these are called sprues. They come in pieces. You will need some sprue cutters. You can get these at most hobby stores and most places where you can buy. If you're gonna buy the Warcry in a actual store, most of the stores that sell Warcry will have these types of materials you'll need. Or like I said, hobby stores, Hobby Lobby, things like that. I know around here we have a store called Hobby Town. So there's places you can get those. You'll need an X-Acto knife. So I don't have my blade on there right now, but that will help you kind of clean up your models after you cut them off the sprues. And then plastic glue, okay? This is actually Citadel, which is a big one for people use with Warcry and things like that. There are other, I believe, cheaper versions of this plastic glue you can get, but you need plastic glue. Do not use super glue. All right, and then, so you'll cut these off the sprue with your sprue clippers. You'll clean them up with your X-Acto knife, and then you will glue them together with the plastic glue. And that plastic glue is pretty quick, so you don't have to hold it for very long, but you do have to be a little bit careful, and it is a little bit of a learning curve when you start putting warbands together. Obviously, They're just plain old gray plastic. That's the way they come. In parts, you have to assemble them. And then they also come with their bases, so you glue them onto the bases with that same plastic glue. And then you have to paint them. Now, if you're just playing casual, playing around for fun at home, you can paint them however you want. You don't have to paint them at all if you don't want. But if you're wanting to actually get into competitive playing things, there are rules about them having to be painted and things, stuff like that. So when you first assemble a model, it looks a bit like that. So just the pieces are all glued together, still just that plain gray plastic on its base. You're gonna wanna make sure that you prime your figures before you paint them. I just use a spray paint can primer. There are different primers you can use. If you have I'm blanking on the word, spray gun, air gun, airbrush, there it is. If you have an airbrush, there are ways to airbrush these things. This is what one of the models looks like after I've used my spray can primer. So this is black. It's just a matte black primer is what I use on most of my Warbands. Priming them black helps take care of the shadows if you miss things when you're first starting out. So I'll do more videos on the painting and priming. Then this is an example of one of my finished models after painting him. So he was primed black just like the previous one, and then I painted him. So for the painting, again, I mentioned Citadel a moment ago with my plastic glue. They have these Citadel paints, and then there's also Vallejo, which are both specifically made for miniatures and modeling, things like that. Both of those are really good brands. They do a really good job. Me personally, I get results just as good, fine, that I'm satisfied with paints like this as well. You want to make sure you're using acrylic, but you can find these at the hobby stores, Walmart. I get some of these paints from Walmart. You get a lot more for less than those actual model paints. The model paints are a little bit easier, and some people argue they do a better job, but for me, not being super into it, not too into it, I'm still happy with my results. For less money, these do a great job and satisfy. So obviously for that, you'll need some paint brushes, hobby store. I'll do another video with the painting about the different types of brushes and things. But again, you can get as expensive or as cheap as you want with those brushes. I've got some cheaper ones. I got a little pack at Walmart that I'm completely content with the job they do. There are some brushes that get up around $60, things like that, which that is not the extent that I'm into this for. Again, the Catacombs comes with different terrain. So it comes with some of this terrain. The terrain, for the most part, it comes a little more assembled than the pieces. The terrain pieces are typically larger than the model pieces, but you still have to assemble most of the terrain. Catacombs is cool because it adds in special terrain features. Like this guy has a special effect on the game. And you're also playing in dungeons now in the Catacombs. It comes with your core rulebook and the Catacombs rulebook, which this one tells you about the special abilities you get when playing in the dungeons and also what the special terrain does, special rules, game setups, things like that. There are cards that you can roll, and it will change what the objective of the game is. There's different types of objectives, whether it be killing a certain unit in the opponent's warband, capturing objectives, picking up treasures, and there's rounds and waves, and we'll go more into gameplay in a different video. But it's exciting, the variability of that, but you don't have to have, in my opinion, the scenarios and the terrain setup cards and things to play this. If you're wanting to get in and get started for a low dollar, then you could get the Bone Splitters. This box here will give you an entire warband of Bone Splitters. So some pretty cool orcs. They're, in my opinion, one of the more simple warbands to assemble. And you can get this box and have a full warband to start playing with. Possibly, I'd have to do the math, but you could possibly even set up 2 warbands out of this box so that you and a friend can start learning the game and battling each other, and also give practice on assembling and painting models before you start getting into other boxes. Because these boxes, again, are not fully maximized, but you can get these and have more variability and be able to set those up and play against each other. But that box gives you essentially everything you need of the Bone Splitters, all the different units. The Warcry specific boxes are limited, so you could buy other boxes or buy multiple of that same box to piece together what you feel is your most optimized build for that warband. Excuse me. So there are faction books. These, again, not required. If you have a little more to spend or you really want this. The nice thing about these faction books, in them they are printed the cards for the warbands. So these tell you all of the stats for your units. And so this is the Death book. So Bringers of Death. This one has, I'm gonna count just to make sure I'm not mistaken. Yes, there's 4 different Death warbands. 4 that fall under the faction of Bringers of Death. So this box that I've been showing you here is one of them. So all of the units you could build in this warband, the stats and things and abilities are in this book. But this book also covers the other Death warbands as well. There's 4 factions. There's Death, Chaos, Order, and Destruction. If for the Catacombs, with those 2 warbands, they also come with the cards. The cards were coming out before the books came out, and the cards are exactly the same. Well, they're what I just showed you in the book. Some of them may have been updated and slightly changed with the book, because again, the cards came out first, and the books are a little more of a new update to the game. But these boxes also come with the cards for the warbands, at least as of right now. So when you get that box, you're going to get the cards, so you don't have to have the book. But some people like the book. The book updated some things, and they're kind of nice to have it all together and to cover multiple warbands. If you wanted to get, this is the Night Haunt box. If you wanted to get Night Haunt, and then you also wanted to get Flesh Eater Courts, well, that one book covers both of those. So you'd be able to have them both together, play against each other, and all that. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to Warcry. It is fun. I'm hoping this was a good intro video to just give you some information on what you might need to get started, or a good place to get started. So just to recap, you're going to need D6s, recommended to have about 14. You're going to need a tape measure. I forgot to mention that. The Catacombs box comes with a nice, essentially ruler that's made to kind of help make that easier. But if you don't have that, you might want a tape measure, because you'll have to measure range and movement by inches. So that's another reason you don't have to have a specific map. It's not on a grid, it's by inches. So you moving around and aiming using inches as your range and movement. So you'll need 2 warbands, and you'll need to be able to assemble those warbands. So you'll need sprue cutters, X-Acto knife, plastic glue. You don't have to paint them yet. You can assemble them and start playing them, testing, seeing how you feel about the game, and start doing some research on what other warbands you might need. So I hope this helps. You got any questions, leave them in the comments. Please like and subscribe and check back for more content.